Friends, I have not been able to stop playing Hunt Showdown. Even when I'm getting my backside handed to me, which happens at least one per match, by the way, I am having the time of my life. I cannot stop playing it. I've put off recording this exact video because I wanted to play a few more matches on my lunchtime. Put simply, it's gotten its sickly little teeth into my neck. But let's back up for a second. For those unacquainted, Hunt Showdown is an extraction shooter that you've probably at least heard the name of before. It's been around in one form or another since 2018, but it just recently received a huge next-gen relaunch titled Hunt Showdown 1896. And naturally, this update has brought in a host of new players to the game, including myself. Now, matches in the main hunt mode that the game is based around have 12 players arranged in up to teams of 3, scouring a map, killing monsters, and chasing clues to find the location of a boss. Then it's time to kill the boss, collect its bounty, and extract from the level in one piece. However, once you pick that bounty up, other players will be looking to kill you and loot it for themselves. It is a 3-tiered structure, not too dissimilar to many other extraction shooters on the market, but for a console scrub like myself, it is one of the first times I've played a true extraction shooter that wasn't just a mode attached to something else. Looking at you, Call of Duty DMZ, RIP. Now, there is so much I could praise here if I had the time, which I sadly do not. Puit Dan Durkin would be absolutely fuming with the edit for this. But the real core appeal of Hunt is in its absolutely intense PvP-BE framework. Set in the grimy 19th century, the game's weapons are incredibly deadly, but also incredibly tough to master, making for an overall gameplay loop that is just so intense and so addictive. Made up almost entirely of slow-firing revolvers, lever-action and bolt-action rifles, as well as double-barreled short-range shotguns, the decision to actually use your gun is not something to take lightly. With lengthy rechambering between shots and the noise being heard across the entire map, a missed target gives the enemy time to retaliate before you can follow up yourself. And while that might not be the end of the world in other games, in Hunt, headshots kill you in one hit, and at most you can take like 3 or 4 shots if you're lucky to not get put down in 2 before you get killed. Throw on top of this a permadeath system which sees your hunter killed for good when they die, with all of their weapons, loot, items, and abilities needing to be repurchased with in-game currency, and the stakes, as you can imagine, are very, very high. And even worse, it's not just bullets that you should be afraid of, as everything from monsters roaming the map, to traps, to falls, to poison, to fire will kill you if you're not paying attention. But that balance between having an extremely fragile character and the high-power weaponry is what has contributed to making Hunt's gunplay just some of the most tantalizing that I've experienced in some time, and I like to think I play a lot of shooters. While there have, of course, been other multiplayer games, even recently, that focus on quick time-to-kill gameplay, Hunt's mix of mechanics can actually lead to longer, more intense gunfights than in games with much slower TTKs. That's because, assuming you don't get blitzed in an instant and they get a headshot on you, these gunfights can actually turn into lengthy games of cat and mouse. It might only take a few bullets to get a kill, but that just means the skill gap between players comes from those who know how to hastily reposition for a better angle, use the environment to their advantage, lay traps, know where to heal, and how best to retreat so they can strike later and strike deadlier. And part of what makes reacting to a gunshot in Hunt so compelling is the way that the game makes all of those processes I just mentioned very difficult to pull off. For instance, Hunt has an interesting approach to health that makes surviving these situations all that more intense. Though all hunters have the same amount of health, each has the choice to split it into chunks of small or large bars. Large bars are appealing because as long as you have a little bit of health remaining in a bar, it will regenerate automatically until that bar is full. However, fire burns off bars for good if not treated, which means you can lose a third of your health or more if you end up getting caught out and don't end up putting that fire out in time to the point where it just burns the health down. Likewise, being poisoned also means that you can't heal at all until the status effect wears off, while bleeding will see you slowly trickle health away until you bandage up. However, most important to the overall gameplay loop is just how much of a firefight is determined by which player has the best awareness of where their enemy is and what's going on in the environment that they're in. And even better, pretty much all of this awareness is gained by clues that you have to gather from the world itself. Though there is a HUD with basic information, it mostly just pertains to you. You know, how many bullets you have left, your health bars, as well as your score for the round. And almost everything about enemies has to be gathered from audio or visual indicators in the world itself. And not only does this make the game hugely immersive, as you're always engaging with the environment rather than looking for pings on the UI, but it makes the psychological part of the game that bit more effective. And that's because, at its heart, Hunt is as much a survival or even a horror game as it is a straight-up shooter. From the tutorial, you're encouraged to sneak your way around hostile environments full of death and decay. Those environments are full of hazards and traps as well, all of which risk giving away your location. Branches snap under your feet, tin cans and debris rattle as you step over them, flocks of birds shriek and fly away if you startle them, dogs trapped in kennels will bark if you get too close, and of course, gunfire itself can be heard from miles across the map. And all of that's just on top of basic actions as well, as running and especially sprinting can allow players to pinpoint exactly where you are. Hell, just creeping up the stairs, if you're crouched, can give away your position if the other person is listening closely enough, because you make a little pitter-patter on the stairs like that. Or if that's picking up my feet, but you get the idea. Put simply, this is a game that lives or dies by its audio design, and thankfully, it's one of the best designed audio systems that I've experienced in a multiplayer game. It makes Call of Duty, look rubbish. So, trying to analyze and avoid yourself this stimuli in the environment makes every gunfight that bit more nerve-wracking. It'll constantly have you thinking, were those footsteps behind me just a monster roaming through the woods, or a player trying to get the drop on me? Are those dogs just barking, or did someone startle them? Was that a shadow I saw over the ridge? Or was it an enemy getting me in their sights? All of this can make the build-up to firefights, never mind the actual firefights themselves, just pure nightmare fuel, in the best possible way. And while all of this stuff is important to be aware of in the daytime maps, friends, you need to be even more aware of it when you come to the nighttime variants of those maps. With lower visibility, it makes the audio even more important, as enemies can blend easier into the shadows for cover or in buildings. It is just so cinematic to hear a gunshot turn and watch as the second shot illuminates a part of the environment, giving you an awareness of where you might want to avoid or attack. Tracking all of the action via muzzle flashes, explosions, or dead enemies not only gives the game interesting visuals, but also drives home the hunt part of the experience. Sometimes, yeah, you do just stumble upon gunfights, but some of the best come from following a trail left behind by enemies, using clues to guess their position, and stalking them before actually deciding to encounter them. Plus, just finding a little hiding spot for yourself and spotting someone else who's trying to sneak on you and hiding in the shadows and getting a headshot on them, it makes you feel like a master sniper or something. It makes you feel like the coolest guy in the world. Or at least it makes me feel like the coolest guy in the world, which admittedly probably means I'm not. And as you might assume, whether you're playing night or day, all of these audio-visual clues get very tough to track when people are shooting at you and you can go down in 1 or 2 bullets. This, thankfully, is where the fun comes in though. See, Hunt's PvP succeeds in the push and pull between encounters, making you feel like both the hunter and the hunted. Though weapons can kill in an instant, it can be a tough process to put someone down for good. And that's because in some cases, if an enemy hunter's body isn't completely burned by fire, they can either be revived by a teammate or just self-revive themselves if they have the right trait. The ability to flee and regroup can see gunfights extending across points of interest in the map, with the chase changing power dynamics the longer it goes on. You might get the drop on someone, get a hit, and then lose them across a canyon. While you had the upper hand initially, you're now at the mercy of being punished for not delivering that killing blow, giving your opposition the chance to instead move into stealth and then potentially get the drop on you. And, dear friends, I can't describe just how good it feels to be on the receiving end of one of these ambushes, just to outwit your competition and get the upper hand yourself and pop an entire team in the brains. Managing to escape and set up your own ambush further on down the road, waiting patiently as they frantically search for you, unaware that you're lining up headshots, is just sensational. Punishing someone for missing a shot and then landing all of yours under pressure, it's a thrill. Being startled by an incendiary round and jumping into a nearby river to put it out before it does any permanent damage to your health, it makes you feel like Rambo. It makes you feel like a proper survivalist from the movies. And of course, there's the reality that you're not doing all of this in a vacuum either. This isn't a PvP game. You're doing it while having to complete the objective, get out with the bounty, and fight other monsters that are trying to kill you. And it's not uncommon for these creatures to be attracted to your gunfire, which can lead to being swarmed and having to juggle with the enemy AI, while not becoming too distracted by them, so you're easy pickings for the players who encounter you or getting third-partied by another team. It all just mixes together for this delicious controlled chaos. There are so many things to mentally juggle in a firefight that activate all parts of your brain that winning gunfights and escaping with the bounty feels like you've not only proven your Twitch shooting skills, but outsmarted everyone else in the server. And that's down to how you react to the push and pull of the game's systems, how everything could go wrong in an instant if you let it, but if you keep your cool, use your wits, keep an eye on your health, and judge the situation accordingly, you can turn around most scenarios that don't begin with a bullet in your brain. But even then, like I said, thanks to the self-revive mechanic, you can even turn those around and rise from the dead and get the people who just got you. All of this makes matches feel so dynamic, and even if you've played the same map to death, no two encounters with other players will ever go identically. And because of all of these finely tuned mechanics, it very rarely feels like a death is unfair or wasn't in some way your own fault. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone's going to love this game though. As you can imagine from what I've described, you will be punished a lot. Sometimes things just aren't going to go your way, or you're going to make mistakes that lead to stupid deaths and losing your progress, and yeah, that sucks. That's not all that fun. Just because the game is technically being fair under its own rules, that, admittedly, like I said, won't be everyone's idea of fun. The immense highs of single-handedly wiping a team are balanced with the heartbreaking lows of just being stomped completely. Like literally, just last night, I had this 15-minute back and forth with this team of two that ambushed me while I was attacking the boss, and I was down to 1 bar of health, which means like 1 shot and I'm dead. But I managed to get away from the boss, managed to get the upper hand on these two players after painstakingly being patient and waiting for them to come to me. I killed one, I killed the other, I was full of adrenaline, I was surging with excitement, and then I ran straight into the boss room and let it kill me because I got too greedy, because I thought I was invincible, because I thought I could just take the boss down, get the bounty, and get out of here, that I'd done the hard work, but I was my own worst enemy. But let me tell you, in that situation, I was good. Like, I was fuming. I could not believe what I had done. I wanted to delete the game forever, but ultimately, I only had myself to blame. It was my fault. I shouldn't have gotten overconfident. I shouldn't have tried to punish a boss when I had 1 bit of health left. What was I thinking? But that loop and that mental space you get in, believe it or not, for some players like myself, is the whole point. It's entirely part of the fun. Hunt can be punishing, but each match is an opportunity for those insane highs, those multiplayer stories that can only arise when you're playing against someone else's brain and not just the AI. And for that reason, I keep going back to try and dish out that pain rather than receive it, and in the moments you do, it's absolutely godly. And honestly, I'm going to have to wrap up this video for today, but there's so much I've left unsaid. I mean, I've only talked about the PvP aspect of the game here, not even really mentioning the PvE aspect and hunting down the boss or how good the monster designs are. There is this one freaky lady who swarms out insects, kind of like the woman from Resi 7, Marguerite, but her head is on her shoulder, which means that you're probably still trying to shoot for where her head would be, but you have to get the shoulder instead, and I thought that was just so cool. It looks amazing. It's a CryEngine engine. I mean, hopefully these visuals that you're seeing right now do it justice. It's just, I'm kind of obsessed, friends. I'm kind of obsessed, and I'm worried because I don't think I'll get any work done ever again. But let me know if you've played this game, if you're going to pick it up after this recommendation. I know it's a hard sell, especially if you don't have a team. I'm playing it solo, which put me off forever because it is only teams. There is a solo mode, but it's not the main mode that I've been talking about here. But honestly, if you think this sounds fun, you can do it solo. It feels even better to get a drop on the team and just wipe a team out when you're playing on your own. Immaculate. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. Thank you so much. If you've enjoyed this, if you want to, please leave us a like and a comment and a share and a subscribe and all that good stuff. It really does help. It allows me to keep rambling like this if you do like it. But until next time, I'll see you later.